Let's review a book. This week's book is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Now, I know that she's most famous for Kindred, which I've also read, and it was cool. But I decided to do Parable of the Sower because it was one of the lesser known works, and I kind of feel that as Black writers, it's important to make sure that we promote all of their works, not just the ones that are highlighted. So Parable of the Sower is about a dystopian United States or dystopian world in the near future, because the story actually takes place in 2024. Not the future. We're here, babes. That is ravaged by environmental and social and structural collapse. The story follows a girl named Lauren Alamina. She has hyper-empathy syndrome, and she embarks on a quest to find a safe place to live and establish her own community using the philosophy she created called Earthseed. During her travels to try to find somewhere safe in the north, she encounters different problems from violence to disease, poverty, religious extremists. And during that time, she has to grapple with her own beliefs as well as survive in this environment. Honestly, I thought it was a really great story. So here are my fresh takes. Like this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to download your free copy of this month's Black History Month calendar. So I'm going to start with what I did not particularly care for. Now, Parable of the Sower was actually written in 1993, so that has to be taken into consideration when she wrote the book. 2024 was like 20 years out. We're here now. Actually, there's only really one thing I didn't particularly care for. Everything else I was either lukewarm on or I really liked. And something I didn't particularly care for was the age gap between, and yes, I didn't say it, spoilers, was the age gap between Lauren and Ben Coley. I didn't like that because Lauren is 18, like fresh 18, and he's 57. I know it's a dystopian earth and society's crumbling and blah, but like that's just what does a 50-year-old have anything-year-old have in common with an 18-year-old? Like I just can't. Like his marriage was older than the girl he was dating. I cannot deal. So again, fictional story, personal prejudice, acknowledged. But that was, I think, the only thing I did not particularly care for. Again, the story was written in 1993. So in terms of societal expectations of women, it was a little bit different. And in that case, it was ahead of its time. But I really did not care for that age gap. Outside of that, everything else I really liked. So something else I really liked about the story was, honestly, the trippiness of it being based in 2024. Because, this story came out when I was youngins. And so now here we are. I'm old enough to read it, old enough to understand it. And it just happens to be the year that the story's based. And I think it really picks up in like November. So I'm just kind of like, please don't break down society. Though we're definitely heading that way. I thought it was really interesting. The trippiness of that was kind of cool. I also really liked the concept of hyper empathyism. Like, that's kind of crazy. The idea of you literally feel what someone else is feeling. So if someone's in pain, you literally feel the pain that they're in. So every time you inflict that pain, you feel it for yourself. When someone dies, you feel what that would feel like. Or even pleasure, because you can feel the pleasure of someone else. That is, if anyone's like, what is empathy? Read this book. That is the prime definition. That is like an example of empathy. Obviously to like an extreme degree. But overall, really liked that concept. I kind of feel like the world would be both better and worse if everybody had hyper empathyism, because like if I felt what you feel, I would be a better person, I'm sure. So I really liked that. I also liked the idea of like people growing up in walls, and the concept of like the people who are abusing drugs being the Paints. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the Paints viewed themselves as like modern day Robin Hoods, but they really weren't. They were just drug addicts burning shit down. So I did like the idea of Paints and like people living behind walls and what they had to do to try to enforce that. And, the concept of that we still deal with, which is, versus how safe it is for women to travel places alone versus men. And I liked those things because they were pretty much still consistently true. And I kind of like Earthseed. I liked the idea of her forming her own religion based off of the accumulation of religions around her. So not just Christianity, which she was raised in, but also her just seeing the world and or creating this framework based off of what she saw. And I kind of liked it. I mean, honestly, it was basically just the creation of a cult. But I did like that the values of this cult weren't bad ones. No one was trying to kill anyone. It seemed a very live and let live sort of situation. So I did like the framework of Earthseed because I, for one, have always believed that every religion has aspects of it that are valid and that are things that we can cherish. Like I was raised Baptist, so I have a lot of the Christian beliefs deeply instilled in me, and a lot of the values are still very much here. But I no longer believe in the one God. I'm perfectly comfortable with the idea of there being multiple because I kind of feel like God is something that we create again. And for her, God was change. And so I kind of like the idea of personifying change, even though it's not really a person. So I kind of liked that. So I liked the way she incorporated different aspects of different religions and even like Buddhism and into how she framed Earthseed, because I kind of think that that's how the world should work, is we should take the best of things and leave the worst as we move forward. It's like part of an unfinished trilogy. I'm not gonna lie, I might read the second book. I'm not in a real hurry because like I have not forgiven Patrick Rothfuss for not dropping the third book of the King Killer Chronicles. I cannot handle another unfinished trilogy right now. Just I will probably read it because I do like the story and I want to know, but I'm like, I don't know if I can emotionally handle a cliffhanger with an ending that's just not gonna show up. Since unfortunately Octavia Butler died in 2006, that's going to remain unfinished. So as much as I will read it because it's a good story, but I'm gonna take my time because I don't want that emotional stress added to my life. Those are my takes on Parable of a Sower. I did really like it and I highly recommend it. Honestly, all the books from this year's calendar have been pretty amazing and I think everyone should check them out. Now, if you're wondering how I make these determinations for these books or why I'm so like adamant about which books to read, would you believe last year I read 58 books? And by read, I mean listen to on Audible because I'm an audiobooks junkie. Like it's pretty bad. I am basically the Paints with audiobooks. It's kind of ridiculous. When you read the book, you'll get the reference. But I absolutely love audiobooks. Some of them were some of them were kind of short. Some of them were not. If you want to know what my top 10 books were from last year, go ahead and let me know. And I'd be happy to make a video with my top 10 because that was quite the accomplishment for me. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. The more you know.